you cannot outperform your self-image. You can only achieve what you think you are worthy of achieving. We are used to working in a certain way that makes us look productive, but we're not always focusing on the right things. There are things in life that fuel and energize you, and the ripple effect will be seen also in your work. You cannot achieve great things with your body posture and everything being like inward. So that is just like the moment we step up also on a bodily level, we feel more energized.
Today we've got Vanessa Tornblom, who's going to be running us through how she helps people who are in sort of like high stress, very demanding roles, whether it's entrepreneurs or leaders, better manage their internal processes, would be, I think, fair to say, so that they're more productive and can really work on what needs to be worked on. Is that a fair way? Or how would you sort of explain what you do, Vanessa?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. That was a really good introduction. So thank you for that. That is exactly what I do. I coach founders and other experts in wellness and performance so that they can succeed in their own way sustainably. So I use the ecosystem thinking, which we will go into more into detail today when I do that. So that was a good introduction. I think that includes everything, the most important bits.
Yeah, cool. So that's the thing that I think I'm most interested in, because obviously, I've been working for myself for like 12 years, and you go through those peaks and troughs, and it is the internal side of it that I think is massively overlooked. From my perspective, I'm always looking at it as, I have spreadsheets to map all of the numbers. I don't have anything to sort of map myself, my own moods or anything. I've tried journaling, I've tried all of these things. It doesn't really work for me. And I don't know whether I've been doing it wrong. So I'd love to know more about that kind of internal side of things and how we can better regulate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are definitely not alone in that. And that is exactly what we usually do. We tend to think of all the external things, so to speak. So that is the concrete. That is easy also to focus on those things, whether it's your goal setting or your daily operations. And that is also something that usually, gives immediate results. So it's easy to think I am making sufficient progress. But then, as you said yourself, it's not that common to have those processes in place for the internal. But those things are important because they might, for instance, slow you down when you are trying to reach those goals, or even like become a hinder at some point if there is something major going on there. So that is definitely something I help people with, and also like to spread the word of the importance of also taking into consideration the internal systems and processes in a conscious way, not just here and there. Okay, I try to maintain my well-being by this and that, or doing a few productivity hacks, but rather seeing it as a complete ecosystem, a complete entirety that we can influence.
And I guess the goal for it would be then to like prevent burnout and be more productive without focusing on the weird productivity hacks. Because I always find personally the productivity hacks, I've tried so many of them, and I spend more time setting up the productivity hack where it would have been faster for me to go and just do the thing. And then like I feel more burnt out afterwards. So I don't know, like, why do you think it happens that like so many people end up burnt out and struggling with these things rather than feeling energized by what they're doing?
Yeah, that is a major pain point for many. And I mean, when you talk about burnout, that is so true. And we are already, I think it is partly because we are already being bombarded with so many requirements. We have our daily lives, we have our goals, and there is this, hectic pace with everything. And then there is like, maybe it's about super optimization for everything. We think there is so much information, there are so many requirements, and we think that it almost becomes as a new to-do, to fix your to-dos. So in that sense, it might burden you because you already have a lot of things to do. So we have to find ways how to incorporate those productivity tips or hacks, or what do you want to call them, and everything, like except like all of the things that helps you succeed and get the things done that you want to done in a way that is not, adding to your pressure. So for instance, it might be that it's not just there are things that are not suitable for you or a person, their personality or the way they work. So that really requires some afterthought. Like, who are you as a person? How do you like to work? What kind of energy levels do you have? When do you feel most energized? And we have to go like dig deep. I'm not saying that, it's an impossible thing to enhance your productivity with easier and more lighter things. But I think the thing that is missing and the thing that is burning people out is that they do not stop to think about it. They just try to implement this and implement that while they are already being busy, and then it's just like it doesn't work.
It's just more busy work to add on top of what's already there. Yeah.
Exactly. And
So then,
also, another thing I wanted to add also, because we are seeing, like, if we're talking founders, there are the burnout rates all over the globe are huge, and founder burnout is real. So I think there is also the aspect of the hustle culture and everything. Like, we are used to working in a certain way that makes us look productive, but we're not always focusing on the right things. And then, for instance, one thing that is often missing is the recovery part. So we are very good at being active, but not that good at then taking that strategic recovery as the best friend, and seeing its value for what it does for our performance. So it also might be about attitudes even, which we are probably going to talk more about during this this chat. But there are like a lot of factors here that I see in my work.
Yeah, it's funny because I often feel like some days, and yesterday was a perfect day example of this, where I finished the day and I've been busy the whole day, and I looked at like what I'd actually achieved, and I was like, I've been busy all day and I've achieved nothing. And I often, my wife comes home and she says, "Oh, how was your day?" I was like, "It was busy, but it wasn't productive." And
Exactly.
I never know what it is that I should be doing to kind of readjust and go, right, how do I cut this out? How do I cut that out? Because you convince yourself that's a task that I should be doing. So you spend time doing it. And then at the end of the day, you feel terrible because you've achieved absolutely nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And that is one thing that people often feel, that, okay, I was busy, but I did not achieve the things I wanted. And there are so many aspects to it, whether it's, being constantly bombarded with, if you're, for instance, in part of a bigger company, maybe, being bombarded with requests, or then being internally confused about your priorities. That is also a biggie. Like, are we being clear on what do we want to achieve? Not just the big vision, but how does it manifest itself in the weekly planning, in the goals we have for each day? And then, to be honest, a lot of people tend to, stack their to-do. So this week I want to do this, I want to do that. And then it's like, you have 15, 20 things on the list, and we are already setting ourselves up for failure in that sense. What we need is are these positive loops of, completion. So our brain gets the reward of completed, and then we can also, like, in a way, hack ourselves into that by just dividing whatever it is that you want to do into smaller parts. So just making, very, like, for instance, minimalism and simplicity is a really important part of what I do. So there you can just, trick your brain and into believing that, okay, I have been super productive, even though you might have done the same things as last week, but you are just maybe, putting a to-do list together for today where you just want to achieve 3 things rather than 10. And then once you've done that, there are certain responses in the body and the brain that makes you go like, wow, I was so productive. And then that makes a positive momentum, going. And it will get easier and easier for you to achieve those things. So if we are always used to not achieving the things we want to do, we are very, like, we are being too ambitious in that sense. So we need also the sense of completion to get the momentum going, and so there are all sorts of these small things that we can use that might help.
Got it. But how would you recommend that people then marry the kind of internal side of things of, like, I feeling like I've completed something with the external goals? Because for me, I know that the two are very closely linked. Like, if I finish the day and, like, I've not made as many sales as I've wanted to that day, if the revenue's not as high as I thought it should be that day, that whole evening, I feel terrible. I feel terrible until it's the next day, and then if things don't pick up that day, I feel terrible that whole day, and then you run that risk of hitting that downward spiral.
Yeah.
And then until things pick up, and then a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years, I've noticed that the difference of those who actually eventually find success are the people who can sort of navigate that and continue to press on for the external goals, whereas the people who generally don't see a future in entrepreneurship are those who let those internal days where things are lesser and lower kind of take over, and they're like, I can't deal with this. I'm finished.
Yes.
Like I'm just wondering how you can marry those two together, the internal, external goals, and maybe keep the motivation high when things are going poorly, or you're just so busy that you're just not really able to sort of take stock of things.
Exactly. And that is the big question, because the thing is, like, we are wired in a way to see the negative, and we are wired to see, the challenges. And then sometimes, depending on the personality, but it is very, what you just described is very common, because if you don't see the results that you were after, for instance, that day, you might get into that downward spiral you just talked about. So I think one of the most important things is to always be reminding ourselves of the bigger vision. Why am I doing this for? That is the first one. And then if we're talking just like, day to day, I like to recommend that we start by, in the morning, rather than just opening up our laptop and looking at the to-do list, if we have one. Not everyone it does, and I'm not saying it's like a must for everyone, but still, rather than that, starting with the most important thing, which is, what do I want to do and achieve today? Like, what is the main goal? And I think it can only be one thing. I'm not saying it's only one task, but it's the overarching theme for that day. Like, what is the most important part? And then with everything we do, we must always like circulate back to that daily vision that is aligned with our bigger goals then. So we can actually see that, is this making me, go forward or not? And then always like keeping in mind, I mean, there is a lot of mindset work to this as well. When you were talking like the downward spiral bit, it requires repetition, because we won't learn in one setting. So keeping that mindset work also with you on a daily or weekly basis. And that is something I do a lot in my coaching too, because we are just human beings, and we tend to focus on the negative, and we tend to, fluctuate between these highs and lows. So in those moments when one feel that, okay, now I'm not feeling maybe the energy, there are several ways to get back to that frequency, but trying to always anchor it back to why you are doing what you're doing. I talk a lot about the why, because that is very important. Your entrepreneurial vision and whatever it is that is driving you. And that is also something I think people don't like. We don't pause there enough. We just kind of set goals. Okay, I want to hit 10K this week or this month or whatever, but we kind of, yeah, we should use more time also, even if we're solopreneurs, to have those strategy days for ourselves, or half days when we just look inwards and review those, because sometimes it might also be that we're doing something that is not aligned with what we deeply want, but we think we want. So maybe that was a little bit outside what you asked, but it's just something I see a lot.
No. And then with that sort of daily goal, would you recommend that people go for an actual tangible goal that they set? Like they wake up in the morning and they set the goal for day to day, I want to achieve X, or is it something more sort of or less tangible with that?
It's both, actually. I recommend, if we go to practicalities, that you will have, for instance, one main goal. What's the main goal for today? And that is the main goal. Like, whatever you want to do, you want to check Instagram, you want to make a sales call, whatever. But if that is not the goal for today, you can then, for instance, circulate it through another list and put it, like, you don't want to forget about that, but you always go back to the main goal. And then you might have like a few, other goals. If I have time, I will focus on these goals. But in addition to these very practical goals, I recommend that you also, I don't want to sound too new agey or anything, but kind of, I talk a lot about energy. That is what I work with, like psychological energy and physical energy. So I also like to talk about the energy that you start your day with, that you maintain throughout your day. So what is the energetic level you want to be on that day? Do you want to be, on fire, or do you want to be like concentrated, or what it is? So that is also something I recommend doing, and thinking about when you start your day. What is the goal for today, and what is the energy I want to carry with me through the day? So that is more intangible, but that might help some people also to kind of, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest, like I'm not new agey at all, and I really should be more new agey because I grew up, very typical sort of British upbringing. If something's wrong, you just grin and bear it, you carry on. That's it. You keep stepping forward. That's it. But I know if I wake up and something goes wrong first thing in the morning, that's it then. the rest of the day, my mood is lower than it should be. And so is there something that people can do where, let's say, they wake up and they're right, today I'm going to do X, I'm going to set up 5 new ads, I'm going to send 100 emails, I'm going to call this many people. They give themselves that nice tangible goal of action that they can do, which is, everybody can really understand that from a very basic perspective. I'm going to achieve this by the end of the day. But then what can they do in the morning to kind of get the energy right then for the day to help them? Because I guess then the energy would be the catalyst for you to help achieve that goal, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have to remember that we are like entire human beings, so everything affects everything. Like how you are, our body, for instance, affects our energy levels very much. So you can just test it by sitting like this and being all sluggish. Like you cannot achieve great things with your body posture and everything being like inward. So that is just like the moment we step up also on a bodily level, we feel more energized. So in the morning, I'm a huge fan of morning routines. It took a little hit when I became a mom, and I realized not all mornings can be spent meditating or journaling or whatever you like to do in the mornings, drinking coffee in peace. But like Tony Robbins, for instance, he talks a lot about priming. I don't know if you've ever heard about this concept, but
No.
it essentially means to prime your mind for the day by taking into consideration the goals you have. So some sort of priming ritual is my favorite, all-time favorite, which basically means before you start working, don't start immediately by reading your emails or your to-do list. Instead, prime your mind in a positive way. For some, that might mean, as I said, meditation. That works for me. That is also scientifically proved that it's very helpful for cognition and overall mood. But that might be an exercise session. And no, it doesn't have to be an hour long at the gym. You can just do like push-ups or whatever energizes you as a person. And then often anchoring your energy to something positive first thing, especially if you're feeling, you described a little bit earlier, like maybe you're not feeling your best, then find something that will help you be more positively energized. So for some, that might mean thinking about, okay, today I'm very, happy. I mean, we talk a lot about, this being grateful, and some people think it's all fluffy, but I think there is a point with, and also in positive psychology, it's been proven that when we think about something that is positive, it helps us to be in a more positive mood. I think that makes sense also outside of science. So maybe just, remembering yourself, like, what are the reasons I should feel good today? Like, okay, maybe I didn't hit my goals yesterday, but at least last week this thing happened, or last week this person said this to me. So find something that makes you feel more energized. And then always, physiology is very important. So that's why I said exercise, but it might be whatever, like, I don't know, jump up and down or whatever makes you feel like, how can you enter a peak state of mind before you even open up your laptop? So those are really practical ways to do that. And then some people find visualization very, very effective. I use that a lot because our brain cannot, say, is it in real life that this happens or is it in my imagination? So that is something very helpful, especially if we are struggling with, underlying mindset issues or self-image. That is not, I always say, you cannot outperform your self-image. You can only achieve what you think you are worthy of achieving. So visualization is very, very effective in that way. So if you start your day with visualization and imagining what is it like, what do I want to be this week, or who do I want to be, that is also very effective. So those would be some ways I recommend.
Okay. And then is it like, because I mean, if we boil that down, then you've got one kind of physical movement.
Yeah.
To kind of wake up, I guess, the body, one sort of meditation to help calm thoughts, and one sort of visualization. Would you recommend building one of each into everybody's morning routine?
Well, in an ideal world, I would.
Yeah.
But then because I also work, for instance, with a lot of busy parents, so then I always say like something is better than nothing. And it might also be like, depending if you're obviously working for yourself or you have the freedom to, work from home, then it's easier. But if you, take your kids, for instance, if you have kids to the daycare and then you just leave for office, you might not be or feel comfortable meditating there or anything. But doing something. So it doesn't have to be all of this, but the more you do, the more effective it is. But then I also always like to say, like, I don't want to overcomplicate things, because we tend to overcomplicate wellness, productivity so much, to the point where we want to over optimize everything, but the basics are not there. Our sleep is a mess, or we have mindset issues that are, hindering us from becoming who we want to be, or we don't exercise or move enough. So, let's not make it too complicated either. I don't want to, sound like you need a perfect, for instance, morning routine to thrive. That is not the case. But usually I just find that people lack, the repetition. Like, we do something, we get excited, we do something a few times, and then we don't see any results because we stop doing that, because it's not realistic for us to maintain that sort of routine. So to answer your question with a lengthy answer, is like, something is better than nothing.
Yeah. But it's the same, is it? Like, if you're trying to get into shape, 10 minutes of working out is better than an hour. Sorry, 10 minutes is better than nothing.
It is.
Obviously, an hour is the best, but doing something is better than doing nothing.
That is the case. And you know what? That is also why I like there's this 5-year question, which I like to use. Like, ask yourself, if you are making some changes, like, could I maintain this for 5 years? And the point is not that we have to do that for 5 years, but for instance, if you start working out, which is also very, very important for our performance and cognition, that we move more, people tend to, get crazy. We want to hit the gym 4 times because we want to become this new fit person. But can you hit the gym 4 times in 5 years? That helps maybe set us in a more realistic schedule, because we are still us with our, daily lives. So that is also a question we can use to see if this change is realistic or not. But that tends to be difficult, because especially founders are really ambitious and they're all in people. So they just want to be like, okay, let's do everything.
Yeah, no, it's one of the issues I see with a lot of people that I work with as well. Like, either people just starting their business, or who have got some traction and things, and they're like, oh, I want to make 100K a month. And then you're like, you need to hit 1K a month first, like set the appropriate goal, and then we can sort of go on. And all for big dreams, I get it. And we all want to be up there making 100K, million. We all want to, have that success, but
For sure.
we will always have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. So you are seeing that too, because that is one thing I have noticed also, that I think I don't know how you see it, but like, because at least I think that we see a lot of those things nowadays with social media, like people are doing all the crazy things and shiny things, and we get intrigued and maybe, set goals that are they really ours? Or why do we want them? And as you say, like the same as I just said, like, the foundations have to be there. So you cannot hit 100K before you hit 1.
Yeah. So curious on that as well, because like, I don't have any social media on my phone. I purposely removed them, which is odd because I run a lot of social ads. And so, I probably should have something like Instagram to look at what other people are running for ads, but I don't do it because I just find, you hit that doom scroll, and before you know it, you're thinking, tomorrow I should change my plans because I saw this guy, he added X number of dollars to his business by doing this thing. So I should try that. And I found it more, yes, it puts you in more of a negative state of mind, but also it distracts you. Because like you said, especially with founders of businesses, they want to keep doing all of these other things. They want to try it all. And it's like, just stay the course. Like, you have something, double down. Do you have any, like, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that sort of stuff, with social media being a distraction, and how or whether people should kind of just cold turkey cut it out.
First of all, I have to say congratulations, because you're a forerunner. Not everyone has done this, and for some, it works. And you are very right in saying that it is a huge distraction nowadays, and we've gone past the era where it was a little bit of distraction for us. Now it is like hijacking our time and attention, and that is, like, on a brain level, very true. It's addictive. So people are addicted to their phones, addicted to social media, and there is all the comparison trap that happens when you go online. And then the more you go there on social media, the more you want to do that. And those small notifications that are blinking there are very dopamine inducing. So that is a smart move. If you don't want to go cold turkey, so to speak, so at least I usually say delete the notifications. So stop, like, having the whatever, is it like the small red
A little
dots?
red, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So take those away so that you don't have the temptation, minimize the temptation to look at your phone. And for some people, it might be just, putting it in your bag and or in another room and not looking at the phone, because we need to practice not being so reactive all the time. So that is definitely something I usually always work with my
Yeah.
clients too. People tend to be so addicted to their phones, and usually nothing good comes out of it. I mean, there are positive aspects of social media, connecting with other people. But as you say, there is also a lot of things that we might compare ourselves to. I talk about this concept of borrowed goals a lot, which means that we tend to think we want certain things because we see in those in others, and usually that is on social media. So we need to really. I'm not. I'm not saying that you have to do a full detox, but the less you use it, I say, the better. At
Yeah.
least during your work days, because the results might be, or they might surprise you if you remove your phone usage and just focus on the task at hand or your daily goals. So there's a huge upside.
I'm pleased you said all that, because I turned the notifications off my emails in particular. Because if I saw that there was an email, I was like, I have to answer this now.
Well,
So,
that's
you'd be
exactly.
at dinner or something, it's like, oh, I need to, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that you are weak in any way. That's our brain chemistry working right there. So it's
yeah.
just something that we need to check if we get the dopamine hit whenever we see that notification, and the more we do it, the more addictive it becomes. And I don't want to scare anyone, but that is a smart move.
Yeah. And then I throw my phone over here just out of arm's reach
Yeah, yeah, that is
when I'm
good.
working in the day, because otherwise you find yourself and you're scrolling and you're looking at things and you're thinking, oh, I wasted, an hour of my time with nothing. So I
That's
have it in
exactly.
the eye line so I can see if somebody calls me, but
Yeah, for sure.
it's not a
Exactly.
distraction.
Yeah, and then I mean, people don't use that much this, but you could, even if you are afraid because some people are afraid that, okay, what if I don't check my emails or messages all the time? Then you might just try with, maybe if you have a really busy day and you want to focus, maybe try some sort of what is it called? The message that they send automatically out, auto
Yeah.
response, automatic response, and say like, hey, today I am focusing on an important project. I will get back to you, or call me if it's super important, or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, we can design things, especially if we are entrepreneurs, as we see fit.
So my thoughts on that were always, if it was that urgent, they would call me,
Mm,
which is why I leave the calls on if something is urgent. If somebody's texting me, it doesn't need a response within the next 10 minutes.
exactly.
It's generally not that urgent. If it's an email, they probably don't need a response within the next couple of hours.
Yeah.
I don't work in an industry where things are blowing up and it's like a
Mm,
life or death situation that somebody's going
mm,
to email me and be like,
mm,
hey, this has
exactly.
happened.
That's true. Yeah, and I agree. But then I have to say, there is this misconception, because I have a lot of lawyers also who I work with, because I have a background in law. So I used to work as a tech lawyer. So they believe that the world will crash
Yeah.
if they are not checking their Slack or emails all the time. But I always like to do a little experiment with them and say, okay, what if we try for 1 week, and you can check your emails, I don't know, every 3 hours or something, but try it out and let's see what happens. And no one has come to me and said, gee, something major happened. I just, am
Yeah.
about to lose my job because I did not check my email. So it's also, we tend to, unfortunately, maybe exaggerate our importance also in this world
Mm,
in a way.
yeah.
So rarely does the world crash if we are not being online all the time.
I agree. Yeah. And I'd like to go back because you talked about something I've not heard the term before, but I've seen this play out. You talked about borrowed goals.
Yeah.
And I've been working in various different fields over the years, and I've always had some kind of coaching of other people going on. And I've seen that there is always a goal that is talked about in the industry, especially on social media. And then
Mhm.
people will come to you and they'll say, I need to do this. This is like the bare minimum that I need to say. And it used to be 6 figures a year. I need to be a freelancer who makes $100,000 a year.
Mm.
At the minute, the big thing is 10K a month. So a little bit more than 6 figures a year. But it just seems like everybody has this one kind of goal and benchmark and milestone in mind. Everybody's working towards the same thing. And you ask them, why do you need 10K a month or 6 figures a year? And nobody has a good answer. They just say,
Mm.
because that's the level. And it's like, well, the first job, whenever I'm working with people in the business, I always say your first job is stay alive. Make sure that you're getting enough money into the business, that you're surviving, and you can keep it going, and then you can look at doing things. But yeah, I've never heard the term borrowed goals, and I think that's kind of interesting because I see it play out all the time.
That is very interesting. So you've seen it firsthand in
Yeah.
people you work with too. Okay, yeah. That's why I use it, because I see it a lot too. And I think this is one reason why we are being so burnt out and stressed, because we think we need something. We think we need to hit that 100K. And the truth is, some people are motivated by that very goal. Let's say it's 100K, but most often I see that it's just some number, it's just some goal maybe that we've seen in other people, and then because it's not our true goal, but we've, so to say, borrowed it from someone else, it's not actually motivating us, and then it might hinder. We won't take action. We maybe procrastinate or whatever we do, because it's truly not ours. So that's why I do the mindset work. That's why we pause once again and talk about this. As you said, why do you want it? And I think every single person needs a proper answer to that. And it might be because I like money. I want to buy nice things. And as long as it's clear for you, then I accept. But the problem is, as you also said, that a lot of people don't know why. And that then boils down to our values. Like, what are our values? What is driving me in this? And I think a lot of people are also a little bit afraid of, just being entrepreneurs, just making money so that they can live a good life, And I'm not saying you cannot want, you maybe you want to scale to millions, and that is also okay. But just as long as you know why you want to do that. And that is the work. That is not easy.
Yeah.
But that requires the answer. So that's why I'm intrigued
Yeah.
to also know that you have witnessed this firsthand.
Yeah, and I see it as well with sort of approaches and business models as well. Like the big one now is like set up an AI agency, and always, and especially the make money online space, it goes through cycles. It was drop shipping, then consulting, then There's always something. And you ask somebody why, and most of them will say, so I can make 10K a month. And so they want to set up an AI agency so they can make 10K a month, but they don't know why they want to set up an AI agency. It's just to make 10K a month. They don't know why they really want to make 10K a month. It's because that's the level that they've been told they can hit. And it makes it, generally speaking, and I don't mean to sound so disparaging towards those people, but those people will try, say, drop shipping when that was big, and they'll fail to hit the 10K a month, and the new thing comes along and they just jump onto that. And they're constantly on that hamster wheel because they've not, I guess, I've never thought of this, but I guess from talking to you, they've not done that internal work to understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And then the internal work is also not only your business vision, but also who you are as a person. What are your motivators? What kind of life do you want to live? Because if we talk, let's say I have a client and they say, okay, I want minimal stress. I want, I'm at my happiest when I live in the countryside, and that is my big dream. And then I ask, okay, well, why can you not, live on the countryside if that is what you really want? And then they start to realize that, okay, what I thought I want, the big shiny goal, actually won't get me where I want to be. So they are, pointing at different directions. So the internal work is also becoming more clear on who you are, not just what you want in business, but who you are as a person. What motivates you? What energizes you? What are your values? How much time do you want to spend on your business? Because you won't hit 100K by working 2 hours a day. I know there are people who teach you can, and you probably can, but it's not the regular story.
It's a marketing tactic, I think, right now. Everybody wants the lifestyle business, and there are people I know who are doing it, and they are the tiniest minority. And usually they've had prior success that they then have leveraged to get this success.
Precisely.
So they're not starting from zero. Most people I know who make a lot of money work a lot of hours.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like, you have to think about, is that what I want to do? And I think there is nothing more energizing than having a big goal in life. That is who we are as human beings, like progress makes us happy. So I'm not saying put your woolen socks on and, sit by the fire and do nothing and enjoy a simple life, but I'm just saying, think about why you want what you want. And is it because maybe a lot of other people are nowadays doing a certain thing and that's why you want it? So it requires a lot of work, and there are no easy answers. And then obviously we can do trial and error. We can try something and then we can maybe say, this was not for me. That's fine too.
I mean, I think that's just part of life, really, isn't it? You've got to test lots of different things to see what it is that works for
For sure.
you, with you, and all of this. But I think a lot of people, again, it comes down to, I think, social media, and everybody wants to skip all of that trial and error to figure out what's right for them and just get to the end goal. There's a lot of impatience.
Yes, for sure. And then that is something we often do not see. We see, because I talk about the gap, the gap between where you are right now, point A, and then where you want to be, point B. And there is a lot of, life and work in between, but we tend to see the end goal, the ending point where people have already what they want. And then they showcase that, because that is, I would too. Obviously, it's not, there's nothing wrong, but we forget about everything that all the work that went into that, all the self-doubt, all the nights we did not sleep when we were, ruminating over what the heck am I doing?
Yeah.
So we need to give ourselves a little bit of slack there and think like, okay, we are all human beings, and it usually requires more work than we actually think.
Yeah. No, it's the classic story of the overnight success that was like 10 years in the making. Nobody thinks about the 10 years. They just see when you went from struggling to success.
Absolutely.
And they think, oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
This person did it so quick.
Yeah. Wow. It looks easy.
Yeah.
But that is also something that is actually my specialty. What I do is, because, there are a lot of, for instance, wellness coaches who work with the softer side of, okay, you need to take it easy, you need to slow down. That is part of my philosophy too. But I believe that you can achieve those great things also, if those are really what you want. And you can, the problem is not that we work a lot. Founders sometimes need to work long days. That is something I see all the time. Like, there are these wellness tips, you stop working after 90 minutes and take a break. Well, I am under a deadline, or I'm in flow. I won't, I want to work hard. And that is usually not the problem even. So my intrigue, or I'm intrigued by the thought of how can we do that, sustainably. I don't think there is nothing wrong with working hard either. And I think we can do that. But just we need to, get the foundations right. So that is also something I want to point out, because sometimes people tend to think that it's either or. Either I, take good care of my well-being and take it easy, take it slow, or then I go for that route of the big goal, but then I have to sacrifice everything. And I don't believe that. I mean, obviously it depends on, are we talking US level hustling, all-nighters and 12, 14-hour days. But I'm from Finland, I'm from Scandinavia or the Nordics, and we have a lot of, we have a little bit of a different view on what you can achieve with less. So I don't want to see that either as that you have to choose between those two poles.
Better work-life balance.
Yes.
I've seen a big shift in a lot of industries where people are focusing more on the lifestyle rather than the hard hustle. I don't know whether that will continue or not, but I see a lot more offers now in the sort of make money online space. It used to be, you're going to work so much, you're going to be doing, look at how full my calendar is, I've got all of these calls. And now there's a lot of people who are saying you can earn this much money in this few hours per week. And I feel like a lot of the time it's not real. I've got stories of people that I've met who make those claims and were constantly on their phone replying to emails and all of this. So I feel like it's you got to find the balance that works for you, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we're probably somewhere in between. That's where the reality lives. There are those examples where people can work just a few hours a day, but as you also said, that might not always be, the true and real story. But it requires work for sure. And I mean, I don't think we should be afraid of working hard, as long as we're working for something that we really enjoy and want to do. but not
Yeah.
saying that we have to overwork ourselves either, because then we are bound for burnout and chronic stress. So we need to find, I usually don't like the term balance, because it implies something, have to be perfectly balanced, and I
Yeah.
don't see life working out like that. So sometimes we are, really in deep, but yeah, that is usually what we talk about. So
I
it's
guess, yeah, people have got different priorities, people with kids, people without kids, people with,
absolutely,
so the balance is always going to be different. I guess finding a balance that works for you.
yeah, for sure,
Um,
absolutely.
but I know that you've got a framework as well, which you
Mm.
kind of run people through. I'd love to know a bit more about that, because I think that would be really useful to know, to kind of help you find the balance for you. Because this is one of the things that I always struggle with. I'm quite happy to
Mm.
sit and just work through, but some days it's not working so well, so you try and like go out for a run or something, and then it's sometimes I just feel too scattered with
Yeah,
it and
yeah.
haven't found the balance that
Mm.
works for me. So I'm curious about the framework.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's talk about my framework. So first of all, what I work with, I already mentioned it, but I work with energy. So that is the main red thread throughout everything, and I call it energy architecture that I do with my clients. So we redesign and rebuild habits. All, like, it doesn't have to be on all levels of life, but usually it's more than one. So we take a look at what does your life consist of right now? What are your goals, your priorities? How does your business look like? And then we design habits, we design strategies that work for you and not for someone else. And the framework that I use in this is basically a set of principles. I call it the SLOW framework. SLOW is maybe derived from slow, as in taking it slow, from my philosophy of we are hustling too much. But it's actually an acronym. So it stands for, first of all, simplicity. So as I already talked a little bit about, like, we are over optimizing everything. We need to look at the basics, like what are the needle movers for you? You've heard of the Pareto principle probably, but it said like 20% of what we do yields 80% of the outcome. And I think there is a lot of truth to this. We tend to think that everything is equally important, but what I do with my clients is we actually sit down and think about, is this really so? And try to be really ruthless in prioritizing what are the things you need to do, whether it's your daily wellness goals or your weekly to-dos or habits. So, getting back to the basics, it might be my love for, Scandinavian design minimalism or something that has brought me to this concept of simplicity, but that is the starting point. Yeah, and then the second, the L stands for leadership of energy. So we need to learn how to direct our energy better, how to manage our energy, because everything boils down to it. And we have energy on many levels. We have physical energy, which is the foundation for everything. And then there is the mental energy, like how our cognition works, how well we solve problems, the mental grind in our work. Then we have the emotional, social energy, and then also I talk about the spiritual energy, which now might sound new age to you, but that essentially means, do we work in our zone of genius? Is this where I'm good at? If not, could I maybe outsource some bits of it? Or how can I reframe the things that don't work for me, that don't energize me? So I think the leadership of energy part is the whole beef. And then we can design rituals and habits around preserving your energy better, taking care of your energy boosters in your lives, and trying to minimize the effects of the things that are draining you. And this is what I do with my clients all the time. I see, like, people are, oh my gosh, this is draining me so much in my work. I hate it. Then we think about, okay, what can you do about that?
Yeah.
Because I think people, we won't stop and look at where is our energy actually coming from, even though we are experiencing the outcome of not having enough energy every day. So
Yeah.
we really need to think about what fuels you and what drains you of your energy on several levels.
What would you say for that part in particular? Because like simplicity, 100% agree. I do the same. Often when you're looking at the marketing side of
Yeah.
things, of the growth of the business, there's a handful of things that are really doing the heavy lifting. Just
Mm.
do more of those, cut everything else. But with the, finding the things that you do with the energy, how do you run people through how to identify them? Is it just like sort of sit down at the end of the day and go, this was good, this was bad? Like, how do I identify what I should do more of, what energizes me, what sort of drains me?
I usually do an energy audit with my clients when I start working with them, and that is basically means that we are listing and going through things from various areas of your life. What are energizing you? People usually know pretty well intuitively what they like, what
Yeah.
brings them energy and joy. But we do that also with their work. So not just, your spare time, but also your work. And then we can list tasks, projects, clients. That is a major thing actually for many. Like, what types of clients energize you? Because sometimes we have a lot of clients that we don't like working with, and then that takes a lot of our mental energy, which will again, have its effect on everything else, how our mood is, and everything.
Yeah.
So that is a major thing. We sit down, and then we think about the energy drainers and the energy boosters, and then once you have your list, you will use it when you work, for instance, 1 week. And you could always add something. You can specify, you can change the things on the list. And then we have, a list that is, run through your work week. So we actually know what belongs there. So I start the practice with them, and then my clients get to finalize it themselves. And then we circle back to it. So that is a very practical way of looking at it, just like auditing your energy.
Yeah. And then figuring out what to do once you've audited. These drain me, they get outsourced. I like doing these, I do more of these.
Exactly. Because I see this a lot. I have a lot of clients who say, okay, the most energizing thing for me, if we're talking, the client part was one really concrete example if we're talking work, but then if we're talking spare time, is maybe a hobby. They say, the thing I like the most is, playing tennis or running, but I haven't done that in years, or I don't do it enough. And then we see clearly, okay, this is something you obviously love doing, but you're not prioritizing it at all. So that is something then I might suggest to my client, how could you make sure you play tennis every 2 weeks? Then they say, okay, I don't have the time. Then I ask them, how do you make the time? If that is a priority for you, if that is the most important thing you want to do, and you've been postponing it for months or even years.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I see a lot.
I feel attacked right now.
Sorry.
It's good because I know that I should be doing that, but I don't make enough time for non-work things, which I should be doing.
That's the thing, because those things fuel your work as well.
Yeah.
So we tend to see the work as the biggest and the most important part, but that is not always the case. Those are there are things in life that fuel and energize you, and the ripple effect will be seen also in your work. And then also, if there's, let's say you're if I'm thinking this energy concept still, if you're, for instance, solopreneur, and then you say to me, hey, well, I'd love to outsource sales, but I cannot, I'm working on my own. Then first of all, we will obviously think about, is that really true? Can you outsource at least something? Or then we might even just reframe it. Why is it bothering you? Can you look at it another way? Can you tie it to your bigger vision, so that you can remind yourself whenever you're doing those things that this will get me closer to what I'm trying to achieve? Or then even maybe designing some sort of, a recovery ritual afterwards. Like whenever you do 1 hour of sales, you get to do that. That usually works with people as well. So you get a little prize. Whatever it is, it depends on the person, but we have a lot of different tools that we can use.
Because I guess nowadays as well, if you're a solopreneur and you're early in the business and you don't have the funds to outsource it, so you don't have the funds to hire somebody, you can do a lot now with AI. And so you might not be able to outsource the sales calls, but maybe a lot of the qualification and all of this, you can have AI sort of handle some of those back end operations to try and free that time.
Precisely. Absolutely. And AI is a very good example nowadays, which can free a lot of time if we just use it correctly. So again, it requires that we actually sit down and think about it. So that is usually it. And it doesn't even have to be a lot. I mean, I work with my clients 1 hour a week. We sit down and then they already feel like they have gotten something out of it. But it's just the act of, pausing to think about these things that is the important, not always being perfect.
Yeah.
But then I shortly explain the rest of the framework. So there was So there's oscillation then in slow, and that is something people don't usually even know of. But oscillation basically means that there is like a rhythm between two poles. Everything in life works like this: your heartbeat, waves in nature, and also how we get things done. So top athletes have known this for a long time. They train very hard, but then they recover hard because muscle is built in recovery, and they know there are some like major research done around this topic too, how much recovery affects your performance. And this is very true also for work, regular workers, not just top athletes, and how our brain works. To be on an optimal cognition or cognitive level, we need those breaks. And I'm not just talking about, take micro breaks during your day. That is also important. Human beings tend to work best in, 90, 120 minute cycles. That is just our biology. But even more so, how do you recover from your work? This is a problem for many people who are entrepreneurs, because they work a lot and they have trouble, taking time away. And it might even be that the work is their life, so they don't even know what to do to recover from it.
So would that be then, because I know that I find this, if I try and work through, I notice that the quality of what I'm doing just steadily declines. And so with the micro breaks, is this like a Pomodoro timer where you kind of set 90 minutes and then you get a 10-minute break and you work focused for 90 minutes to get the thing done? Then you have a 10-minute break where maybe you go for a walk or something within the workday. And then I guess the hobbies is the great thing outside of the workday to kind of help you de-stress. And
Absolutely. Yeah. And with the Pomodoro technique, that worked for some. But for instance, I am a person, I found many of my clients are, that when they get excited about something or they're in the zone, they find it hard to just pause after 90 minutes. And I think if it interrupts your flow, then it's not a good idea. But thinking about maybe auditing that too, looking at your workday, for instance, yesterday, how many times did I have a break? Did I have any breaks? And if not, why? How could I have more of them? And if it's not 90 minutes that you like, then it might be something else. But it's just good to know that the cognition declines after a certain period of time. So it's not wise either to sit at your laptop for 4 hours without having even a small break. And nature breaks are major. Research shows that whenever you go outside, even, I don't know, if you don't have any nature close to your home or office, then maybe some indoor plants or whatever. It sounds very HR, but there are research showing that helps us calm down pretty quickly.
Surrounded by plants.
Surrounded by plants.
Over there, all over the place.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
okay,
so yeah,
cool.
for sure. But again, it depends. It depends. And then we get to the W, which is wiring, which has to do with this too, how we are built as human beings. We have ancient brains that are still living in the Stone Age, yet we are working in a modern environment that is not very suitable for, or very well suitable for our brains. So asking like, how can we support, I'm a big brain nerd, I'm sorry, but I always talk about this, but how can we, support the brain so that we can perform on an optimal level? And this also has to do with taking breaks. So to make sure that we can, function at our best, make good decisions, feel motivated, then we need to factor these in. So that is essentially the framework I use, the principles I use with my clients.
Got it. So that the SLOW framework is simplicity, leadership of energy, oscillation, and wiring. Okay. And then you recommend that people sit down maybe once a week, or maybe even at the end of the day, and just audit what's gone well, what's not, and try and think about how they can simplify things, where their energy is, when they can work hard and take a break, and how they can think about things to be better. So it's kind of like a daily or a weekly ritual that they should be building in to better understand themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about taking the time for that. But then I also want to point out that I'm not a fan of rigid, weekly planning. For some, it works, but for some people, and those are mostly my clients I've seen, they want loose framework. So you might, for instance, use a few blocks per day where you work on what you want to work, and you can maybe switch if there's something in the morning block that you feel like you want to continue working on, and if it's the afternoon block is not super necessary, then you might change that. So I'm not for, it's hard, let's say it's hard to know on Monday morning what you need to do on Friday.
Yeah.
So that is okay, but as long as you have some sort of thought of your ideal week, and then you can go from there and adjust. But a lot of people I see is just they open up their laptop, they work, and then they close it in the evening or whenever they do that. So that is not optimal working.
Yes, it's not. And that sounds a little too close to home for me, because that's And I sit here, work. I can wake up, I take the dog for a walk, and then I work, and then I finish work.
But the good thing is, on the other hand, like if you are in that situation, there is a lot to be done and a lot to be yielded from those actions. So it doesn't have to take a lot for you to see big improvements.
Yeah.
So that is in a way a good thing. If you are not used to these sort of things and utilizing this work week design thinking or
Mm.
in your daily life, then if you do something, you can
Yeah.
immediately see the benefits. So in a way,
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah. No, I should be a little more cognizant of what I'm doing and how it's affecting me, I think, moving forwards. So no, but thank you for that. It's definitely very interesting. I think a lot of people, especially I know a lot of people who could really benefit from taking a more purposeful approach to how they do things. But where can people find you and connect with you and reach out if they want to? Where's the best place?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say if you are interested in these themes of leadership of energy and how to have a more productive work week, then I would suggest you go on my homepage, performanceatelier.com. Maybe we can link.
There will be links,
yeah,
in the description. Yeah.
exactly. So I have a newsletter which I use to talk about these topics. So you're very welcome to join. Then I have a pretty new Instagram account. So I'm still building that, but there you can find me. It's just Vanessa Tornblom, the handle. And then I am quite active on LinkedIn as well. So
Okay.
I would say those are the main channels.
Yeah, cool. And we'll link to all of those down below. But I
Perfect.
guess if you had like one tiny little piece of advice to give somebody, like one thing that if they could just do that one thing, you think they'd be in a better place. Do you have anything for that?
If you could do just one thing, I would ask what would make me feel most energized, both in terms of work this week and outside of it. And take the time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, write it down and think of one thing for each, how you could do that in practical terms a week. I would say that's just one thing that has immense benefits.
And then I guess force that into your schedule somewhere, make sure that you make time for it and get it done.
That's it. Because if you don't, it's very easy to forget. So that's why I'm a big fan of the calendar.
Yeah.
Just put it somewhere. You can move it if it's not the perfect time, but just have it somewhere.
Got it. Perfect. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, hopefully everybody can go and connect with you and get a little better at managing themselves, their time and their energy.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the good discussion, Pete. It was a joy.
Thank you.